All right, we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the To Be Alive podcast. Guest is Antonio Sosa. Antonio is a friend of mine. We met, I think, like 5-6 weeks back, pretty recently. I was doing a little social experiment here on the bridge in Austin. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And we just hit it off. And I was like, immediately, like, I want this guy on my podcast, and I want to be friends with this guy. So the latter, the friendships, I think forming. I'm going to talk about that as well later. But I've always wanted to go deep into your story, and for some reason, I wanted to save it until this podcast to talk about really like some of those details. There's something about your energy that I've always told you is very like clean and coherent to me, and I've always like wondered like has he always been that way? What is that all about? So. Any quick intro you want to give our audience before we dive in?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Like I was saying earlier, I really appreciate you for creating this platform and giving me the opportunity to share my story. I totally believe in anybody who's listening has something to share, but very few actually do the work to create the platform or to feel like they're worthy enough to have their story to be shared. And I think I want to start off by saying, whoever's listening, you are worthy. So if any of the things that we talk about move you, then this would be really well spent.
Heck yeah. I love it. Thank you for that message. All right. So let's dive into some questions I had. So I like to just kind of keep it open at first. So in your own words, how would you describe your life? I know it's a big question, so you can kind of take that in whatever direction, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Man, I love that question because my life is just like everybody else's, where it's a school of sorts of if I want to learn how to be strong, then I got to go find some challenges to be strong. If I want to learn how to love, then I got to put myself in those opportunities to love. It's an adventure. I'm currently living the best version of my life that I could picture and imagine for myself. And don't get me wrong, I'm not on the beach with a mansion and a cigar, but the journey is what it's all about. So I'm really enjoying the fact that I'm on the way to my biggest dreams. And just the other night I was reflecting that I'm so grateful for where I've brought myself to this point. The thing about our egos a lot of times is it moves the goalpost. I used to want to make this much money. Now that I've made it, now I want to make more. I used to want this kind of body and I got it. Now I want even more. So it's just a progressive realization of worthy goals and dreams, the ups and the downs, the drama, the highs and the lows. I'm living, man. That's what I'm doing.
I love it. Have you always felt this way? This kind of open?
No, just like, well, actually not just like everybody. There's everybody has different kind of upbringings, but mine was pretty rough, I would say. My parents split when I was 6, and traditional Mexican family, which emotionally, socially, and a lot of other kind of ways too, pretty backwards and behind. So it was kind of hellish. Me and my brothers would fight all the time, yell at each other, scream at each other. There was this show that I used to watch um, that actually got a reboot. I'm starting to watch the top 20 movies on IMBD, and I'm on Hulu. I'm about to try to watch Fight Club, and then all of a sudden I see Malcolm in the Middle. Have you ever heard of that show?
Mm-hmm. I never watched it, but I know and I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's a super dysfunctional family, which really mirrored and parallel mine. And then there's just one, Frankie Nunez, the main character. He's like some genius, doesn't belong in that family. Not that I was a genius, but I was kind of the steady, grounded, disciplined achiever of the three. And it's very interesting the parallels and arcs of that show. But I did not start off this way, man. I started off with so much insecurities, so much doubt, so much self-consciousness. I was so shy as a kid. Luckily, I was able to get a girlfriend somehow. Elementary school, middle school, nothing crazy. But I remember them chatting me up on the phone, and every once in a while, they'll check in on me and say, "Are you still there?" And then they'll keep yapping their mouth. So I was so shy that it was uncomfortable. Um, I knew at like 14, 15, I didn't want to be shy forever. This was painfully shy. And I was just introverted. I think it had to do with moving around a lot. I moved around a lot. So that kind of just wasn't good for my psyche. It wasn't until I was 17, actually, even younger. So when I was 10 or 11, I had at least some good work ethic. I got out of my shell by knocking on doors with a lawn mowing company I had. I was doing door to door, and I succeeded at a pretty high level as a young kid. I was making like $1,000 a day. This is like 20 years ago. Yeah. I was making pretty good money for a kid. I was employing my friends. They all wanted to work with me because if I wanted more money, all I had to do is just knock on more doors. I know I could do that now, but I don't want to be mowing lawns and stuff. But it showed me at a young age that profits are better than wages, that sales or like going to get business is amazing because it's in your hands. Then I tragically had to move back to El Paso. That was in Austin, Texas. I had to move back to El Paso. Maybe that story for another time. But to kind of tell you like how it really changed and developed for me, I would say I was a self-centered, selfish dude in high school. Nothing super crazy, but compared to now, I found this MLM. It was called AMWAY, and the team was called Your Association. That's where I learned about personal development, leadership. From 17 to 25, I was obsessed with that. But the biggest thing was my heart was still really disconnected. It was a people business, but I treated people like numbers. It was a leadership, personal development kind of business, but it was toxic positivity. It helped a lot though. It helped in a lot of kind of ways. But I didn't really start cultivating what I mentioned earlier till I found psychedelics and plant medicine. And that was at 25. So I'm 25, 32, been working on this. Been working on this guy.
I love it. What was it at age 25? Like did something click of like, oh, this is not the way I want to live and I want to try something new or explore? Like walk me through what that was.
You know, it's so interesting how many lifetimes we get to live. Things come in seasons. Sometimes they come in batches of 6 to 8 years, and then your life completely can change. And for me, I was doing that business so dedicated, so obsessed for so long because my dream was to travel the world. It's always, I grew up on History Channel. So I have a love for the planet. I have a love for the old ruins, the megalithic structures. I want to see this earth and all of its beauty. So that's still my romanticized dream. But the business I was in would dangle that dream as a carrot, saying, you have to do this business to get that dream. There's no other way. Talk about feeling trapped. I read Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week, and a lot of it is outdated, but some of the ideas are brilliant. You don't need millions of dollars to go travel the world. And for type A, super productive, proactive people who are always busy and, top grades, top schools, top jobs, he talks about being busy just to be busy is a form of laziness. Being truly intentional with your time, that takes work. Just to sit there and think, am I making the right move? Not just a move. So that book really helped break my glass ceilings. Okay, I got super excited. That paired with the power of now helped me just really liberate from my current paradigms. It's like the Plato's allegory of the cave. I finally was able to start peeking outside of the cave and to really start seeing, okay, what is possible? And then I found this guy, highly recommend his YouTube channel, Los LeBlanc. This Canadian dude who just travels and has the most cinematic looking videos, had a really detailed guide on how to get to Bali and navigate from the airport all the way to your hostel. I bought the guide, it was 75 bucks, and I knew from A to Z how to do it. Got my ex-partner at the time and said, "Hey, this is what I want to do and I want you to come with me." And luckily, she was cool enough and loved me enough to do it because we just decided to sell everything. The car I had, all the furniture, the clothes, packed all the little things that we had into a little storage shed and had our backpacks and we bought a one-way ticket to Bali. So I needed that for me because too many years of the same thing every year kept going by. And this is our only life. YOLO. What's the most exciting, scariest thing that you can think of? That's what you should probably do.
Yeah. Wow. So you can't leave us on a cliffhanger. So you went to Bali, and then what happened? What was that life like? How did it change? How did it change
So I
you?
got out of that business and it was like my mentor at the time, who was like my father figure, older brother, best friend, also unfortunately had manipulation tactics in our relationship because I was his workhorse. I was the guy for the city, which to say that, I had to get extremely good. Just know that the skill that I had to have in that business was being able to go up to random strangers, get them to like me, and get them interested in a business opportunity. It was pretty bad though sometimes, like, some people would afterwards, after a meeting or something like, "I thought you wanted to be friends, but you're pretty much just trying to use me." And my brainwashed self was like, "I'm trying to make your life better." And it was a different time. But I had to I bring up all this up because I had so much brainwashing and conditioning that when I got to Bali, it was like a rehab. I felt guilty not doing meetings for the business. I felt guilty not being productive or working. We had a great time though. Met people from around the world. I found a life coach in Bali just at the gym, and he totally helped me unlock my mind and get my money right and learn about my subconscious mind and my values, my mission, the verbs I, resonate with. Went to some exotic islands and flew my drone on this boat and made cool vlogs. Got to see I got to see what the other side of the world looked like. I got to see how they really do say people who have nothing sometimes are even happier than people who have it all. A lot of times at our villa, there's some young kids who like clean up the property and here me and my ex would be going to a nice dinner that would cost like 20 bucks for like a 5-course meal and all of a sudden as we're walking we see those same kids squat squatted over with a fire that they made cooking a fish that they caught. So like the super stark contrast of like the different worlds that we live in. So Bali was such a great shock, culture shock. I really wanted spicy food and they didn't have any. I really wanted like the food that I was used to and it was nowhere around. Absolutely loved scooter culture. Like just being on two wheels, going through rice paddies, some of the most beautiful cafes and world cuisines and people who've just also opted out of what Tim Ferriss calls a deferred life plan, where you just work your life away and then get to 65 and retire. He calls it having a mini retirement. which I know you're kind of having right now, where you work more on lifestyle and you fan the flame at hobbies and things that you let die. We were surfing, we were diving, got to after Bali, went to Hawaii and we were snorkeling, like free diving. I was able to hold my breath for like 5 or 6 minutes. We would
Impressive.
go we would go I don't even know how far away from the shore. We would go far. And there was, like, some close calls too. Violet, my ex, would get stung by a jellyfish once, and she was, like, panicking and almost, like, drowning, and we were far away from the shore, and I had to, like, bring her out there. There was times, because there's so many wild animals out there was times where a scuba diver would be getting out as we were going in saying, "There's a shark out there." Like, scary stuff. It was cool, though. I did get to actually swim with, like, 20 different tiger sharks, and that was like a paid excursion where they would go out into a certain spot, and there was whales singing, just you can dive underneath and you can hear them like so many whales just talking to each other and all these sharks and the most majestic views. Got to surf, I got to bodyboard and ride waves, I got to just really what they say is like that much nature, that much beauty really soothes and calms your nervous system. There's no billboards. Certain parts of the island, it's just pure jungle, and I was always shirtless, and I was always barefoot. I had the Me and her are still great friends, and we just talk about those days, like, really the good old days, and I still have so much desire to still have the future be the best days and not that is it gonna be a once in a lifetime thing, like, I'm getting ready to do that here by either next year or the year after to do another year, but see more countries this time.
You know, what you're saying about like all the nature, the animals and the lush greenery and all that, how it's like a nervous system reset. I actually feel some of that here in Austin. I feel like there's something about this city that has so much. I mean, I'm just looking out the window. I can see all the green trees. It's beautiful. Um, and there's a culture where like you can actually like take your shirt off and walk around and no one's gonna like look at you weird. Um, the barefoot thing, I've seen some people do that. It's not as common, probably as in Bali, but there's definitely something to it of just kind of being more free to just be who you are in your environment. That places like Bali obviously allow you to kind of explore a side of yourself that's isn't so like um, put together all the time, because you're supposed to be put together a certain way. So I can see connection. I mean, I've never been to Bali, so I'm sure it's even deeper freedom when you're there. But I feel some of what you're describing. I've felt it in my experience here in Austin too.
I agree. Austin has that balance of both where you can have city and nature, especially if you go to the west side. I've been exploring that, the hills, just seeing sometimes you see it in the overpasses. There's like such lush trees everywhere. And ultimately there is a quest for everyone, man and nature. What's your relationship with nature? I grew up sheltered in like a city boy. Sometimes with camping with my dad, but grew up with my mom who never really developed a relationship with nature, and she still hasn't. She's moving from El Paso to Austin, so I'm gonna help her with that. But I realized too that there's an ongoing desire for knowing nature, like feeling it. It's so interesting how every buck looks freaky in a special and beautiful way. Every bug, and I want to know the names of these birds, of these bugs, of the native things, of snakes, of all the things around us. I even want to do like a survival wilderness survival course that talk about ultimate. safety. Like it could be World War III, it could be apocalypse. I'll be ready. But I think that is our true essence. Really, is we're not separate from nature. We are a part of it. It's our mind egos, this concrete jungle. Yeah, comforts are great. Don't get me wrong. I love AC, but too much comfort really does kill. And getting back to our roots, rewilding ourselves was part of that journey.
Dude, rewilding. That's such a. I'm stealing that word. I love
It's
that word.
not mine. It is people do use that.
Okay, okay, but still, it's a great word. It's a great word. Um, so
That's
so
actually why
you
I had long hair, to be a little bit wild.
makes perfect sense. And for context for anyone listening, Antonio just cut his beautiful head of hair. What, like 3 days ago?
Dude, man, it was recent. Yeah,
Looks good, by the way. Looks great. Um, so you came back from Bali. You said you were there for 1 year.
I did 1 month in Bali, and then the rest in Hawaii. So it was total a year.
Okay. And just real quick, how was Hawaii? Like, what was that? You explained a little bit about
I
how
was
Bali
describing
was.
it a bit of the, like all the
Got it.
wildlife was in Hawaii, but Hawaii was where I found LSD. So
Okay.
it was absolutely profound to be doing that much heart opening, mind expanding things on a pristine, beautiful, apparently heart chakra of the world island, and having the free time. I was really only working a couple hours a week, um, and during COVID, so I got to spend the lockdown there. So it was really my introduction to it was my boot camp. It was my launch of who am I really?
Hmm. Okay. So are you comfortable talking about your psychedelic journey on this podcast? Okay. So I want to just give a quick disclaimer because obviously, this is stuff we're talking about that's not technically legal, whatever. Um, I want to talk about it specifically with you because I feel there, like, I just, again, I resonate with your energy. Like, I could just feel something in the way you move that's very, like, coherent to me. And I know psychedelics have been a big part of your journey. So I think there's, and this is changing in our culture now where people are beginning to become more open to how do we use these, what are really medicines. These are not drugs that you just go and party with. Like, that's kind of what tainted, its reputation in the first place. But how do we take these substances that help us explore ourselves in a way that we wouldn't be able to explore otherwise, right? That's the angle from which we're going to dive into this next kind of segment of this podcast. I just want to be clear. Like, we're just, it's pure curiosity. And I think when you have the right intention with these things, like, they can truly show you who you are, or they can give you glimpses of who you are. So you can then, work to integrate that more throughout your life when you're not, because obviously you can't be doing these substances 24/7. So they're like pointing to something, and then it's your job to integrate the things that you experience. So with that kind of little disclaimer aside, I'd love to hear, you mentioned LSD as kind of this first gateway into this stuff. Like, just in whatever way feels right, walk me through this journey with psychedelics. Like, what was it for you? And maybe the first question would be, what was it that made you want to get into it in the first place?
Yeah, great question. And I'll add disclaimer too that this is not recommendation and we're not condoning you to do this. But everybody does have to think for themselves and find out what's true for them. What I had to do before even considering it was I phone called two friends that were experienced. They each said beautiful, loving things about it and said fear that I had was false evidence appearing real. And the disclaimers that I was reading was if you have a history of mental illness in your family, then you should probably not take it. My brother was severely bipolar. So I'm like, maybe I'm susceptible, but that added to more fear about it. But I always heard Joe Rogan. I was a big fan of his podcast. In the early days, the podcasts that got me were the ones with Graham Hancock, and He's a guy who was a archaeological explorer, alternative history, let's call it. And he would always talk about DMT, and it just sounded interesting. Then I would hear about ayahuasca. So I only would hear about those two things, ayahuasca, DMT. And ayahuasca sounded like it was only for the wealthy because a few grand to go down to Costa Rica, or like 5 to 8 grand at least. I'm like, eventually when I can afford it. And there is something to that because, people who have access to these things, we'll talk about maybe the pyramid, the hierarchy of needs and self-actualized people and demographics. But, I'm just a brown kid from El Paso, didn't really grow up with any emotional intelligence at all, any self-awareness at all. And luckily, my partner and I, quite open-minded. She had a coworker who she met at Victoria's Secret. She actually accidentally got that job. And her coworker said, "Last week we just tried some acid and it was awesome." She told me that story and I'm like, "Ooh, what's that?" "Oh, it's a psychedelic." "They're inviting us to join them?" "Okay, let's do some research." We were scared. We did like a week's worth of research, read tons of articles, tons of books, as you probably should because this is your mind and your only life. What if you lose your mind, end up in a mental hospital forever? That's what our fear was.
So real.
And then um, we show up. We said, we're just going to do half a tap. We're going to take it easy and conservative, half a tap. Beautiful, best setting ever in these like hills of Hawaii, in a nice little college house. This girl who's from the Bay Area, two other girls that were also friends with her. They're just college students in a really classic hippie house with like mushroom art and stuff everywhere. And two beautiful cats. We were in lawn chairs, we were all just chilling. And I looked to Violet and I say, let's just do the whole thing. I'm feeling pretty good. This is not a big deal. Like if they're gonna do it, let's just do the whole thing. We take it after an hour, boom, like we are in it. Talk about another portal through a different realm. For some people it's subtle, but for me it was strong. It really felt like the lights turned on. I can self-diagnose and say that I was a high-functioning depressed guy who, to cope as a kid, had to numb my intense emotions that I didn't know how to express or even verbalize. So I numbed and I hid. And those bodyguards that protected me as a kid ended up making me a prisoner to emotion later on. Never would cry, never would feel or empathize. And it served me well in business. That's why I can just work my ass off. I can just work and work and work. But I wasn't living and I was pretty kind of dead inside. Music wasn't really even listening to music. I wasn't creative. I was so disconnected that there was so many people that I've met that ran into later on that I just don't even remember because I didn't pause enough. I wasn't present enough to actually relate to them. I wouldn't even I wasn't in a good relationship with my siblings, my parents. I was just very estranged and disconnected from myself and from everybody except for my partner. So the lights came on. I had what felt like it was a volcano of emotions, of all of the emotions: joy, happiness, sadness, pain, grief, such wonder, such childlike wonder. Like I just felt like I was 5 years old again. They say that over time, everybody thinks the same thoughts for the most part, has the same routines, takes the same way going home from work. You have our preferences, right? And it's like you're going down a ski slope and you have these grooves over time that you just keep going down over and over, and it's kinda automatic. You're just skiing on the same path. What that tab did, it's like it was fresh powder. The neuroplasticity of my brain was, "Wow, I've been thinking and I've been the same guy, just doing the same thing without even realizing it. I've had these bodyguards that were now prisoners that were keeping me from being free." And this totally broke that open and allowed me to feel and see what's possible. And it felt so incredible. I felt so alive. It was like I was reborn.
Did you feel that during that experience, or was it afterwards?
During
Okay.
during and after the afterglow, it was just so much what I needed. And I remember this one thing too, like, but these drugs were bad. These are bad, but bad is good. It's like, good is bad? I'm like, I was just tripping, like, just trying to figure this stuff out. I'm like, wow, no wonder they keep these from everybody. No wonder nobody wanted to go to the war in Vietnam. Just want to love. Peace and love, man. So yeah, it was earth shattering. Like, I wanted to be close to my parents. I wanted to be close to my siblings. I wanted to get to know myself. I wanted to know why I do what I do. I wanted to know why I was so numb. And I wanted to be alive and free. And that was the beginning of a lot of incredible integration, a lot of journeys. My deepest, darkest traumas, my deepest secrets, my unbearable feelings, my triggers. Me and my ex got to therapize each other that whole year.
um, what like it's incredible, man. What do you feel like was the most immediate shift? I mean, you mentioned like your maybe your relationships, your emotions, but I'm curious what that looked like. Like how did that actually change you?
It was I had, like, a feud with my younger brother. I I had a feud with him because I didn't know that I was enmeshed with my mom and my brother. I was the pseudo husband for my mom, and I was the pseudo dad for my younger brother. And growing up without a father figure and no emotional intelligence, there's a lot of, psychological damage. So ended that feud with my brother, say, "Hey man, I'm sorry, I love you. Let's figure this out." With my mom, say, "Hey, yeah, I want us to be closer." I loved my mom and we were always good, but I would never call her. I would never call anybody. So I the immediate things was I started spending quiet time with myself. Luckily, I was into yoga and meditation and reading spirituality. The immediate things was like voicing my deepest childhood traumas to my ex-partner. She would listen with unconditional love and witness me. So those things were the biggest unlocks. I'm telling you that whoever's listening, if you haven't resolved the skeletons in the closet, you have no idea how light you can be. You have no idea how much gets unlocked. You have no idea how much self love can happen when you heal the traumas of the past. So, one after the other, I was slaying my demons, facing my fears, making the hard calls, the hard phone calls, correcting old karma, like people, friends, or ex-partners that maybe I didn't show up the best. "Hey, how you doing? Sorry I haven't kept in touch. Just want to tell you I love you. Just want to tell you that I'm here now." Before I was disconnected. So I was feeling like there was this karmic wind that I wanted to just add love to anything on the past. So I was like looking as back as I could and just trying to show up humbly and say, "Hey, This is a new me now. And if you want to be in a relationship, I'm here for it this time. The immediate things, man, were I was eating Taco Bell. I was eating fast food. I would never cook. I was just lazy because I was depressed. I just sought a bunch of comfort. Instead, it taught me self love. It taught me, actually, I feel terrible and I want to feel good. I want to be vitalized. Oh, let's start cooking. Let's start making our own recipes. Let's start working out. So as I healed the past, I was able to grow into something that I've always wanted. Okay, what's my vision? What do I want to be? What do I want to do?
That really resonates. I feel like in some ways I'm kind of inching into that part of my journey as well right now, of like the self love aspect, and not just like the the raw self love that everyone talks about, but like really, what does that mean? And like you said, like the lightness with which life can actually feel, when we've kind of learned in our own way what that means. So like the for some reason food has always been a big tell for me. So if I'm like eating out a lot, it's probably because I'm trying to avoid something that I'm experiencing right now, or the voice in my head is super loud. It's like criticizing me or whatever. But the days where I actually listen to what I actually want, which is, hey, I just want to like enjoy the experience of cutting these vegetables, throwing some meat on the on the cast iron, like, and I follow through on that. um it's like it's not just like, oh, I got to eat a nice meal and I'm not hungry anymore, but it's like the entirety of the experience becomes the point. Whereas like before, I'm just trying to get this flash of like, oh, I want to have flavorful food in my mouth, so let me order something or let me go get fast food or whatever, right? So it like that starts to feel cheap, right? Like at a certain point, because you want the whole experience. You like it's the whole like even the struggle of it, of like, oh, I gotta cut my vegetables, I gotta mise in place and all these things they teach you. So I'm sorry, not like, I just want to connect because like I feel like I'm beginning to understand what you're talking about. Funny enough, this wasn't something I think I think I intellectually understood it. Like, you read about it in all these books, you Be Here Now or whatever, every book you can think of talks about this idea. For it to click into place, it really, I think it can't be put into words. I think it's like it's a shift internally. Um, yeah,
It's a
just
major difference. Letting go has this great part of, people who are dieting, people who are a little bit overweight or obese or really overweight haven't had that shift of self love because they're using shame and guilt and fear to push them, which is like the dark fuel that I used to have to do anything with fitness. But it shifted to just pure love and taking care of myself, and also the love of feeling good. And then my goal of feeling better. Because once you know how great you can feel, no brain fog, or amazing energy, perfect sleep, vitality, once you know how good you can feel, you're a rich person and you
there's
don't want to go back.
literally it's so true. You are a rich person at that point. Yeah. That's so okay. So one, okay, I want to go back to your 20s, right? So you had 1 year of exploration with this. What happened beyond that? Like, how did you relate to these medicines, um, from that point forward? Yeah, I'm just curious how that came together.
It's a great point and great question because what happens to a lot of spiritual people, a lot of hippies, is they do opt out of the economy. They just wander around. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's
I
nothing
love how you
wrong with
said
that.
that. Opt out of the economy. That's amazing.
They opt out of the economy, man. Uh, they're like, "Oh, I don't have to be in the matrix unless, if I don't have that as many as desires, I don't have to go in the matrix and sell my soul." Because I was living that soft life for a good while. And then my ex wanted to finish school. She had she was done with the island life. I probably could have been there for a bit longer, but okay, we'll go back. A little reluctant, but we went back. She went to Texas State in San Marcos. Then I got me a job at a dealership. First time. I spent a month at the dealership. I'm adjusting, like, it can work hard, but in my next medicine journey, it was like, oh, I'm having a hard time. It feels like I'm in prison. Feels like I am spending the best parts of my days just for money. It was tough. It wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't that hard, but everybody does have to decide how much they sell their soul, how much they spend their time for money, and then how much of that is fulfilling and purposeful versus I'm just doing it because I don't really know what else to do. That's something hopefully people aren't really doing, is blindly just working their life away like a hamster wheel. But integrating was challenging because I wanted to find deep, meaningful relationships, but all I had was my coworkers. And I wanted to coach people and tell them about spirituality and all these things. And I was able to make some good friends at the dealership, but nobody that could actually see me and meet me at my depth. So I realized, I can't really preach at work. Can't really be doing this at work. I have to take care of myself. I have to make sure my bank account and my family is good before I even start focusing on others. That's where I knew I really wanted to be a coach because I really loved sharing what's working for me. But I realized I can't just do it to anybody. They have to be willing to listen. They have to be willing to learn, and they have to be willing to give something up. Have to give something up to go up. So the main things though, other than just working and supporting my ex, was actually still doing journeys. Maybe every quarter, maybe twice a year, I would do a nice good old trip. And it was a good alignment. I always called it a spiritual shower because I can callous up. I can go maybe back to my old ways. I can cope with weed, or I can cope with video games, or I can kind of numb myself again. Because I usually always base it on when's the last time I had a really good cry? When's the last time I really empathized and felt the pain? And if it's been a while, then I'm due for a spiritual shower. So it's good though, because those things for me, because I can forget that there's another heartbeat across from me. Like there's different degrees of that type of awareness. And I guess those substances really teach me that everybody really has a deep, powerful story too. There's a word for it too, that there's like a whole lifetime of emotions, ups and downs, relationships that you have experienced that I'll never really know. And we could only share some of it. But the continual growth and knowing thyself ultimately led me to uncouple or separate or divorce with my ex-partner, which that was a decade defining event.
Mm. Are you willing to talk more about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the master of teases, man. You'll lead us right to this like climax and like pause.
Well, I'm getting
Tell
the
me about
energy
it.
to talk about that one.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, again, anything you don't want to talk about, please don't feel like you have to. But I personally would love to know more about kind of when did you start feeling like this wasn't it, or this wasn't a good fit, whatever. I don't even know what kind of verbiage you used in your mind when you're talking to yourself about it, but I'm curious when that was, and then yeah, just like how that led up to the moment, and what was the moment like, and how have things been since?
Yeah, so it's multi-layered because I wouldn't probably have actually married if it wasn't for like the really religious Mormon figure who drilled us to do it, and the very Christian religious traditional organization that I was in that married off people left and right. It was their ways of stable relationships who build the business. So it should have just been dating, but the benefit is truly marriage helps you persevere through crisis moments. Maybe we had two or three, and if it wasn't for marriage, then it probably would have been easier to leave. So I'm all for marriage if you truly want to see it through. But I don't think you need the legalities of marriage. I think it's mostly for my views on marriage now is like if you're gonna support a family, like, hey, I want kids. Okay, give me the ring. I think that's the fair exchange. So it happened 3 years before I actually officially started dissolving. I started feeling like there's like so many marriage pitfalls that men and women fall into, like sex can go off the cliff, the provider sacrifices his happiness and myself, like, okay, all these other things I will get once I have built the kingdom. I'm just gonna sacrifice myself. No friends, no hobbies. I'm just gonna work because I need to provide for a family. And that started becoming less and less my truth and reality as I continued to know myself. And I don't think that every relationship is meant to last forever. I truly think that a relationship can be beautiful, nourishing, uplifting, and not all pieces of the puzzles have to match. And if they don't, then that's where good communication comes into play. And it's usually about goals. It's usually what I've seen is when does the woman want kids? If it's now and he doesn't want to, that was our case, then it's not a match. Then it's just different timelines, different timing. So all the puzzle pieces didn't match there. And that was my greatest fear was to what if I leave and I regret it the rest of my life? What if I leave and I don't find a love like this and I regret it forever? But that's just fear and that's just scarcity. The final thing was I sought out support. I went to a men's group where emotionally mature men support each other. That was helpful. But then I also went to a mastermind with a local amazing guy named Preston Smiles, and he held something called Man Cave, and it was a couple $1,000s, but I needed guidance at that kind of level. So I paid and I signed up and I was getting what I needed, but ultimately I saw this one guy finally say, metaphorically, he took his mask off. Finally, he said, I want to admit that I am bisexual and I hate to admit it because my greatest fear was being different. So here's a guy who's like confused about his sexuality or just coming into light. Nobody cared or judged. But if anything, I was inspired. I saw someone break down in tears in front of 20 men talking about he's done living with a mask. That was the courage I needed to really just say, hey, I love you. But in this relationship, we want different things. And I want to begin the process of separating. Talk about nauseating, earth shattering, disorienting amounts of pain and tears and crying. Because we had a great relationship. We had a beautiful relationship. We grew up together. We helped each other get out of the hellish dating world and into heavens. But it just didn't have all the pieces line up for me at that time. And it took all my courage, all my will, all of my development, everything, all my support system to do that. I still don't think I fully have processed everything. Since then, I've had multiple journeys where I'm just grieving it like a death, like absolute. Because you grieve the past, you grieve the present, and you grieve the shared future that you built together. And I went back into the wild, and back into the dating world. Not right away, took me a few months, but it truly felt like I was going back into the wild.
Rewilding, baby.
Rewilding.
You were with her for how long was it?
8 years total.
8 years. And this was how recently did you separate?
And January 2024 was when
Okay.
we started
Just
landing the
over
plane.
2 years. Yeah. Okay. Wow. You know, I feel like the relationships that you leave that like don't have anything wrong, like it's fine. Um, but there's something inside of you that's saying like there's something more out there. Those are like the hardest relationships to leave because like there's nothing you can point your finger to and be like that's the reason why I shouldn't be here. This person does this thing to me all the time, and like I've reached a breaking point and I can't handle it anymore. Right? Like that's probably. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't seem like that was what was happening. It wasn't like you were being abused or something by this person. It was just more like trusting something inside you that's saying there's something more out there to explore, and that is a tremendous leap of faith. You know, to be able to take that step, um, because the mind likes to spin up stories of what if I'm wrong? Like, what if you're not going to find someone like this person? Because look how, because you mentioned already on this podcast earlier, how many times y'all had just unconditional love for each other in different experiences and moments. So to leave that and be like, damn, am I going to find that again? Like that must have been so scary that possibility. Do you still, how do you relate to that now?
You know, I knew that I was not leaving her for someone else. I was leaving her for me,
Mm.
to be alone with myself. And I knew it would be lonely sometimes or a lot of times. Mm, Lately, the last month or so, I've been in that energy. I'm like, ooh, now I'm really single. Because I did find someone after 3 months, 3, 4 months. I found a girlfriend, dated for a year. That was a passionate love affair. But this is actually really the first little season that I'm really alone. Nobody to text. Well, actually, as of last week, I do. So it comes in seasons, but it was the longest, I think 3 months of not really having anybody to text or to hold or to love or to give me attention back. It was just me. And I'm like, this is the lean into my own energy. This is really like what I wanted and needed. I'm whole and complete by myself. Get to know me, take myself out. And that's actually how we met. I was telling you the intention that we'll see what the universe has. Like, I'm going to do things alone because I'm going to see what comes to me. Because I do want great friendships like yourself. I want a thriving community, which it's growing and it's nourishing and it's fulfilling. Because I was definitely codependent in as secure as possible, but still codependent with my ex. Like, I lost my identity. I lost a lot of who I was. And I've been on the quest to get to know myself again. So I still miss her a lot of times, especially when I have absolutely nobody and I'm feeling a little heart heartsick. Is that yeah? And the thing about it too, man, the extra layer is she found a partner and got pregnant, had a baby right away with somebody. And I am actually drawn to that baby because it's her baby. Nothing but love. I know I made the right decision. I have not regretted it once. But the love is still there. And I love that baby, still love her, and that won't change. And if anything, it inspires me so much because it's it's what I envisioned, like a beautiful family. But I just knew that it wasn't mine. And it's inspiring because that's what I know what I'm looking for when I'm dating is like I really know where the true treasure and the riches are. Luckily, I've been able to see and feel what true love feels like, and it's the greatest. It's what everybody's really actually looking for. None of the facade or the fakeness. It's I know what really is valuable. And anytime we chat and FaceTime, my spirit soars. And again, it just feeds me still. It's great that we still get to have a relationship because it doesn't have to end. She's always gonna be part of my life, I'll always be part of hers. Of course, there's respect and boundaries and things for the ex part or her partner and stuff. Yeah, man, it's still tender and alive, and it may take a few more years, honestly, for it to be really settled. It's something that I anticipated when I was landing the plane, when I was leaving. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a long journey of healing and recovery to truly. I'm wondering, like I said as of a week ago, it's like it's so funny, like how dating, in my view, looks like. It's like whether women now are wanting to find a partner seriously or something, or who knows, or I just surrender to the life's flow. If some months or weeks I don't have any dates or anybody to talk to, that's fine. And then if I have a great connection with someone, but it doesn't lead to anything, that's fine because you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person.
Beautiful.
I've connected since my ex enough times to know that it happens when it happens, as long as you're ready. And I'm curious to see how ready I actually am. I thought I was gonna casually date, but that doesn't really exist. If the woman's not a certain quality for me and above that I could invest into them long term, then I'm not really entertaining that. And when someone does have that potential, I'm gonna date and take it slow and then just find out if it's actually a good match. Because you need to be tested in dating. There needs to be friction. There needs to be some crises to really know what you have your hands on.
Yeah. I feel like there's this, by the way, first of all, thank you. That was so beautiful. And thank you for sharing, your vulnerability out loud. I feel when you're speaking, there's this genuine grace for like making contact with life. Like you said, we have to go through these, conflicts and crises with our partners, and I argue also with friendships. Anybody we care about, like like those are the moments where, like, do we decide? Do we want to to be with this, and therefore with this person, or not? And do we avoid it? And I keep hearing you're like, the answer is, I want to make contact. I want to make contact. I want to just like go into the messiness of what it is to be a human being. And I think that attitude is so rare these days. And I think, and I don't mean to say that as a judgment towards anyone who is that way, but I just feel like it's the fear you're talking about earlier, right? It's like so many of us are driven by this fear, and the fear looks very like clever. It's not like, our mind does funny things with it, but that fear keeps us from like making contact because we're like, oh, we don't want to feel the heartbreak if we were to try it with this person. Oh, maybe I'm not ready, right? Maybe it's too soon, and all these questions. And so we're like, okay, I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. Um, but there's something brave, there's something graceful about just like being in touch with some desire that's like, you know what, I just want to see this for what it is, and whatever happens, I leave it to the universe, to God, whatever you believe in. And I trust that this is truly something that is going to be beautiful, no matter how it ends or what happens in it. um Yeah, I'm curious if that resonates at all with you.
Love that. Yes, it's the messiness of being human. Since I was numb for a long time, I feel like I don't wanna just be so steady. Like, I don't I want to feel. I want to ride this ride. I don't wanna play it safe. I want to get if I get rejected, I wanna get rejected hard. If I fall in love, I wanna fall hard. I I I just don't wanna be the same. I don't wanna be left the same. I wanna be taken high and taken low. I want the music to just pierce. I want to dance. I want to this and I've discovered that there's certain women that bring out more of me, bring out the best of me. If I'm adequately excited and attracted, oh my goodness, who am I? Like that is what I'm looking for when it came to dating. And that comes through a process of self-discovery for sure, of trying, putting yourself out there, taking the shots. Which my Amway MLM days serve me well now because I don't really have much approach anxiety. Still feel the scariness sometimes. But yeah, the messiness, the the vulnerability, the humility that yeah, I'm human, I bleed, I hurt, I feel, I cry, I'm happy. And it's all just beautiful and perfect as it is. It's it's a focus to find out what is making me feel most alive, what really resonates the most with my body. It's been, yeah, body intelligence development. Instead of head filled, it's heart led. It's, yeah, the messiness, man. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I I keep running into people in the last year. This is the lesson that I've been learning in the last year is that you can be messy. You can embrace the messiness because that's all this is. You know, you can understand all the spiritual ideas and understand all these really crazy principles of like oneness and all that, and none of it matters if you're not making contact with every single moment.
And I'm working on that too, man, because sometimes I am polished or like careful or just like, "Ooh, what are they going to think about me?" Because my goal still, man, is to totally unapologetically be myself. We appreciate when we see them like that's a character.
True. That's so true. Well, I mean, on that, I have a couple of questions. I put like hard mode questions. Um, if you're interested in these, all right, let's do it. All right, first one is, what are you most afraid to say out loud that you know is true?
I don't really nothing is coming up about being afraid and knowing it's true. You are beautiful. You are worthy of love. You have everything that it takes. If nobody believes in you, I believe in you. As cheesy as that is, people need to hear it. So, yeah, being cheesy sometimes is scary. But yeah, and like you can do this.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I received that. I received that. And everyone listening, I'm sure, receives that too. Um, what's your relationship with being seen today?
Um, I was at this really cool burner flip side event and I got to do an authentic relating exercise with this group and particularly with this girl. Um, we were talking about how psychedelics or the self-awareness journey or the spiritual journey can really start narrowing down the pool of people that you can actually relate to. Because You can only go as deep with someone else with as far as how deep they've gone with themselves. And you notice that too sometimes. Some people, you may have like an hour-long walk and some people won't even talk. You may have a plane ride for 5 hours and dead silent, not interested. And that's totally fine and normal. Like there's always like circumstances, but what all of a sudden you meet someone that just totally clicks and gets you. I find that people who don't really have too many close friendships, it's because they're afraid to put themselves out there. Like there's like certain things that people have to do to actually be in relationship. Imagine you are grouchy, annoying, terrible, mean, nasty, ugly, probably not having too many friends or you're probably not getting invited to dinners. So like there is like a certain criteria for you to be in actual friendship and relationship to someone else. So when I was talking to this girl, she said, "That must feel kind of do you ever feel kind of lonely? Like not being able to have someone really see you?" And that touched a nerve. It was like, yeah, sometimes it is a little lonely. Sometimes it is a little lonely. There's a huge part of me, probably my best, most vulnerable self, that still only lives with my ex. And that's because it was years of cultivation. And with my brothers, years of cultivation. So it takes some time to get comfortable with yourself, comfortable with the other person. They have to have like enough interest and likability for you to be able to have experiences over time so that way you can keep letting more armor down and keep letting yourself just be you. And then you could totally feel seen like few people do. So being seen, man, is it's a beautiful thing when you feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a gradual kind of unfolding. I think there's always more layers to us that we can reveal to the world, and different contexts too. You feel seen. It's easier to be yourself in different ways in different situations versus others. And so like I used to do this thing where I would like judge myself for not being able to be as vulnerable as I possibly can be in every situation. Like you take these ideals and then you twist them around and make them like criticisms of yourself. Um, but I think the way you're holding it, it feels like you see it like, okay, this is like you are worthy of love. You are love, and these things take time. And I don't need to rush what that looks like. I don't need to control it in any way. You know what? That's what it is. I feel with you, Antonio. Like there's no control. You're not trying to control things. There's like you're maybe one way to put it is you're synchronized with your feminine, like it's balanced with your masculine, um, or harmonized with your masculine. That's what I feel like. There's no control. There's no aspect of your energy to me that feels like you're trying to make things happen a certain way. You know, you're just recognizing something in the present moment, and you're like, oh, I want to see what this is, and then you'll go and explore it. I don't know why I just wanted to share that. I just I can see it. It's really cool.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I think that is that is from a lot of surrender, a lot of ego deaths, a lot of seeing that trusting that the universe has my back, trusting that however it unfolds is how it's meant to unfold. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I do finesse and a little strategy, a little things here and there, but I do like to just go for the ride. When I go on my journeys, I can instantly surrender. It's like I'm watching myself. I can just be in awe of what can happen when I get myself out of the way.
Beautiful, man. All right. Anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up? This has been such a fun conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me express all this. And no, man, I just feel grateful. I just feel so fulfilled. I really do love just conversating like this. And right back at to you too, man. Like it's been really fun to be in relationship with you and to share the memories that we have. And we got ice cream that one night. That was such a golden
It was
memory, man.
fun.
We just found a secret hiding spot by the pool and stuff, and I'm like, "Dang, this is a cool vibe." So I'm looking
Yes.
forward to making some more memories with you too, man, and it's been a fun friendship.
Hell yeah, dude. This is just the beginning. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Awesome. All right, Antonio. Thank you again for coming on, my friend. I'll see you around soon. And to the audience, thank you for listening. Hope you took away something from this. And as always, stay kind, and we'll see you next time. Much love.
See ya.